Hello, Meg here. Before we get into the episode, I want to offer a quick disclaimer and an apology. We had some technical difficulties when recording, and unfortunately, the audio quality at the beginning of the episode is not up to my usual standard. It does improve around the 55-minute mark, so I hope you'll stick with it, because this was a fun one. Thank you for your understanding. And now, on with the show. Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said, "Never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off." In other words, every detail must be relevant, and every setup should have a payoff. Thus, the narrative principle of Chekhov's gun was born. But it isn't always a gun. Chekhov's Whatever is a podcast where myself and guests watch a movie and try to predict what role Chekhov's gun will play. Welcome to Chekhov's Whatever. Hello and welcome to Chekhov's Whatever, the podcast that makes a game of movies and storytelling. I'm your host, Meg Mazeski. Here with me today to talk about the 2025 superhero action movie, Superman, is Polina Grinbaum. Welcome to the podcast, Polina.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining me. Polina was the co-host of the now retired Happily Ever Aftermath podcast, a show that I very much enjoyed guesting on frequently. Polina, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Polina Grinbaum. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and a while ago I had a podcast with Diana Roderick-Sconnard called Happily Ever Aftermath, where we discussed romantic movies that we watched when we were like young teenagers, early adult, like tweens, and kind of dissected them and talked about like what would happen after the movie. But it ended up being just a really fun exploration of sharing sort of like childhood memories and movies. And it was ironic because we, of course, didn't actually like romantic movies. That's actually how we bonded when she and I first met. But that's been a little while. But yeah, I just like live in San Francisco Bay Area. I work as a engineering manager and just kind of bop around. I still love movies, but I don't have a podcast anymore.
Well, I'm glad that you are here to continue your love of movies and talking about them with me.
Oh my God. I loved having you. You were on the podcast like a bunch of times.
Yes.
And not only did we love having you on, we just loved I was like, do we have to actually record? Like, it was so much fun having you over.
Yeah, it was like a whole day affair.
Yeah.
I loved guesting on your podcast, and I highly encourage the listeners to check out said podcast. There'll be a link in the show notes.
It was really, really good. But yeah, happy to be here.
As I said at the top of the episode, we're here to talk about Superman, the 2025 version. When Superman gets drawn into conflicts at home and abroad, his actions are questioned, giving tech billionaire Lex Luthor the opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of the way for good. Will intrepid reporter Lois Lane and Superman's four-legged companion Krypto be able to help him before it's too late? This movie stars David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, and a whole bunch of other big names. If they were in a James Gunn movie previously, they're probably also in this one. And speaking of James Gunn, this movie was written and directed by James Gunn. At time of recording on Rotten Tomatoes, Superman has a 83% critic score and a 90% audience score. So, Polina, did you have any expectations going into this movie, or what are your general thoughts on Superman, superhero movies in general, etc.?
So, I am not a huge like superhero movie person, and actually I'm probably, if I'm more of a Marvel person. I like Spider-Man. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't tend to like go to these movies. So I feel like I'm really behind on the lore of Superman. Like I never I think I read it and I watched like the Justice League when I was a kid, like eating my cereal as a latchkey kid. So I like read the review and I was like, it doesn't look bad. Like it looks fun. And I watched it at home, rented, which I have to say, like, I think like kind of kills a good action sci-fi movie, because like I don't have that amazing of a set. Like I have a fine TV. Like it's 42 inches. I have a sound bar, whatever. Like it's fine. It's acceptable. But like, I don't know, you really lose something not like sitting in a theater and uh, kind of being visually assaulted. Like it takes some of the like that kind of magic out of it.
I definitely see what you're saying, especially when I would say often for superhero movies, the greatest strength of the movie is the visual spectacle.
Exactly.
So if you do have the smaller or not as, no one has an IMAX at home, you can still have a
Mm-hmm.
really good entertainment system set up at home, but it's not going to compare to those speakers that rumble your entire sternum, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
And like, yeah, there's certain scenes where I'm like, oh my God, this would be so much more fun and interesting. And then you're kind of left with a story, which that's probably the thing I like the least because it's usually predictable. But,
Yes.
it's a nice time to think about like Superman and sort of this idea of like, sort of empathy and inherent
Hmm.
goodness, I guess. And
It's a message that bears repeating, certainly.
yeah, so like that was nice.
I, like you, am way more of a Marvel person. Ever since I was a kid, I really liked Marvel comics, X-Men in particular. Superman as a character, I just don't have strong feelings one way or the other. I did really enjoy the Fleischer Superman cartoons of the 1940s. This
Yes.
was a short series, I think fewer than 20 episodes, beautifully animated cartoons. Really liked those as a kid. And then as a tween or younger adult, I really enjoyed Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman
Mm,
with Dean Cain and Terry
I never
Hatcher.
watched those.
Really fun. I mean, I haven't revisited this show since the early 90s, so I would go out on a limb and say it probably doesn't hold up, but I have fond memories. I enjoyed it as
Hmm.
a teenager. So that's kind of like where my Superman opinions begin and end.
Yeah, I feel like as a like Gen X person, like I feel like Superman, like I too watched the 1940s, like they were on when I was a kid, and I remember like even like being bored. I was an only child. I spent a lot of time alone, like reading the paper, and there was still Superman in it, like strangely.
Yes,
But like I feel like the good stuff, like it just I sort of aged out. You know what I mean? Like, and actually, this is probably true of a lot of superhero movies. Like, they weren't at
definitely.
sort of the point at which they could really capture my imagination. They weren't really that great. Like, I remember I saw, honestly, probably my biggest memory of Superman is that Christopher Reeve lived in Princeton, where I went to high school. Like,
Oh.
um, and everyone was like, "Oh, Christopher Reeve."
Yeah, and speaking of different incarnations of Superman, we have had Henry Cavill most recently before this
Mm-hmm.
movie portraying Superman in the DCU, the DC cinematic universe, I guess you
Mm-hmm.
would call it. However, I've only seen Batman v Superman. That's the only version of that Superman that I've seen. And also, speaking of James Gunn, the writer director of this film, I haven't seen The Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Peacemaker, other forays of his into the
Mm-hmm.
DC universe. I did see all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Loved the first one. Thought the other two were mid to kind of bad. You
Yeah.
said that you saw the first Guardians. Did you
Yeah,
enjoy that
I
one?
I really enjoyed it. Like it was fun. I saw it was actually also one where I think I saw it on like a smaller screen and I
Mm,
was like I didn't have that sense of like, oh, this would be more fun. Like I mean, I know for a fact it would be, but like I didn't have that like, geez, I'm missing the one thing I can really get out of this. And then I did see the second one and I thought it was terrible. But also I hate sequels with a passion.
oh.
Like I always feel like really ripped off when I see a sequel. Like I think I saw it like I don't know somebody's house or on a plane, like and or maybe babysitting my friend's kid or something. And yeah, I was like super disappointed because I'm like, wow, all the things I like about this, they've now like regurgitated back at me, and they don't feel like special.
It's really hard to land a sequel because the thing that you loved about the first one, it's often lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
It's not repeatable. Or, like you said, it's repeatable in a way that it is boring and not actually, you're like, oh, I don't want more of the same. I want something magical like the first one was.
that's the thing. Because there's a sense of like discovery with like when you walk into a movie and you're like delighted by something you're not expecting, and then suddenly they're like, oh, we figured out what delighted you, and then we're going
Yes.
to plant that. Like, and I'm sure, I know that's not actually what it's like, but that's what it genuinely feels like to me.
Yes.
Like I'm basically being manipulated. But like obviously it's in the most benign way possible, like to take my $15, but like
Well, that's another reason why Guardians of the Galaxy was so enjoyable, was because by that point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
mhm,
the movies were starting to feel rather cookie cutter and like, let's check all the boxes that make a
yeah.
Marvel movie. So Guardians certainly injected a little bit of newness into the universe, and it was fun and irreverent and outside of the mold of the other Marvel movies, which did make it very special. And I think there are certain shades of that in this Superman movie. There is a fun frivolity that is really lacking in the rest of DCU, at least as far as I've seen.
Yeah, I think because I didn't see Suicide Squad either, but I think that, and that maybe that kind of pretentiousness like is the thing that probably turns me off, because I'm like, I like movie, if you're gonna do it, like explore something interesting. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, to like the visuals were really different.
Yes.
And the sort of the joyful manic nature of like the outsider characters were genuinely outsiders,
Hmm.
and felt like fleshed out by their stars, in a way that that felt really surprising and fresh, and like, and it looked really cool.
I agree. All right, well, let's dive into Superman now. But before we do, here is a quick overview of how Chekhov's Whatever works. This is a podcast where myself and the guest watch and review a movie that's new to us. We also play a game where we try to guess what Chekhov's gun will be and how it will play out later in the movie. Chekhov's gun is a plot element that must have a setup and a payoff. That setup usually happens in Act 1, and the payoff typically comes later in Act 3. A Chekhov's gun is also typically a concrete item, action, or person rather than something symbolic or thematic. And finally, a Chekhov's gun should move the plot forward in a meaningful way. We get 2 points if we correctly identify a Chekhov's gun. We also get an additional point if we correctly guess how that Chekhov's gun will pay off. And finally, we lose 1 point if we incorrectly identify a Chekhov's gun and its role. Whoever has the most points at the end of the movie wins. Our movie begins with an abridged backstory on Superman. He is the most powerful of a race of beings called metahumans. His alien parents sent him to Earth, where he was raised by Kansas farmers under the name Clark Kent. Right away, I do have a bit of praise for this movie, which is that we don't have to see the Superman origin story yet again. Even for people who don't know Superman well, aren't terribly well versed, what else do you need to know about Superman
Mhm.
besides that he's a super person, a super alien who has come to Earth? It's like,
Right.
wham, bam, that's all you need to know. Let's get on with
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, you got the kryptonite, you have Lex Luthor, you're good.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. Kryptonite, Lex Luthor, super guy.
Yeah.
We also learn in the beginning title cards that Superman recently stopped the fictional country of Boravia from invading the also fictional country of Jarhanpur, sparking worldwide controversy. Also, a metahuman called the Hammer of Boravia has just kicked Superman's ass. This is when we get into the action. Superman, as played by David Corenswet, crashes into the icy landscape of Antarctica, beat to hell. He calls upon his super dog Crypto to help him get back to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, I really, I kind of like thought they sort of presented an interesting premise with this whole idea of like, they start out and it's basically just like title, like it's just text on the screen, but it's
Yes.
really smart because it's like it uses this repetition thing of three, like 30 years ago, then 3 years ago, then 3 days ago, then 3 hours ago. Okay, do not quote me. I don't think those are the exact things, but like, you're kind of like brought into the present really quickly. And you're
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, wait, did I miss something? And you're like, I'm fine. But also this kind of weird geopolitical thing of like that, like he's this all powerful being, but of course, or all powerful, he's all powerful like alien that
Mm-hmm.
like but he's on the side of good. So it's like, well, he's America, he's like, and he's acting like extra is it extrajudicial? Like, I don't know. We're presented as complicating an intricate geopolitical situation, but he's not actually like, helping the American government like he was before.
Yeah, this is actually the main thrust of the plot of the movie is
Mm-hmm.
that he is acting unilaterally
Yeah.
as himself, as he says, not as a representative of the US, even though people may perceive him that way since he grew up in Kansas, but also he's not even an American. He's not
No.
even an earthling.
Yeah.
He is an alien. So this does spark a lot of debate within the movie. Like, how dare he feel like he can act as this representative of our country, of our species, even.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's just trying to save people. So he sees
Mm-hmm.
it as a lot more simple than the other people in the movie see it. He's like, look, people were dying. I did what I had to stop people from dying, end of, essentially.
Exactly.
At the Fortress of Solitude, a gaggle of automatons heal Superman with the concentrated power of Earth's yellow sun, while Supes listens to a soothing message from his parents, which he's watched countless times before. This is my first Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's lost message. It is mentioned in this opening scene that this message from Superman's parents back on Krypton, it is not the full message. Part of it was lost and corrupted when he landed on Earth. It's an incomplete message. My prediction for how this lost message will have a payoff later is that the rest of the message will be recovered and that this will cause some kind of reversal. I think that the parents will not be what they once seemed and that Superman it'll throw him into a tailspin. He'll start
Good
to doubt
one.
everything he thought he knew about himself. Also, I do feel like it's maybe a little too obvious that the message is going to come back just because they really beat home in this scene. Oh, this message that you watch all the time and it brings so much consolation to you, and it really well, something's gonna happen with this message.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually like, because obviously I knew what the premise was. So I was like sitting there with my little notebook and like every scene, I'm like, the threes, no, no. So, and I was thinking about that, but then I'm like, this is where playing this game was hard for this movie because I'm like, what is like lore that I just like I'm not aware of because I haven't
Yes.
seen a bunch, and what is, I mean, made it kind of fun, like in a weird, like kind of more fun actually in retrospect, because it's like I did have to think a little harder instead of just like writing down every little thing.
Right.
But I was like, oh, well, that must be lore. Like there's,
I see. Mm-hmm.
but that's why I'm like, when you said it, I was like,
That is a confounding factor. And
mm-hmm.
you're right. I hadn't considered that in this scene, but I think that you were smart to make that assumption. Superman flies back into the fray. Metropolis is being attacked by the so-called Hammer of Boravia, who is actually the metahuman known as Ultraman. Ultraman is being controlled by Lex Luthor, as played by Nicholas Hoult, with the help of an army of Luthor Corp tech bros and his social media-obsessed girlfriend, Eve. And Superman is defeated once again.
So this is my first Chekhov's influencer, which
Aha.
is his girlfriend, Eve Teschmacher, I think. I can't remember. I don't remember them ever saying her full name. And she's played by Sarah Sampaio. She only appears like she just basically he's like walking down the hallway and she's like clattering in her heels behind him and like
Yes.
and she's the only one wearing like color, and I'm like they wouldn't have put her in that much, like like her clothing is so out of place,
She's
and
very
then
conspicuous.
she's so conspicuous, and also I was like, oh god, they're gonna do it, like an influencer is such like kind of that like obvious joke humor, like oh we have to put something that's very like of the moment, even though obviously influencers are not of the moment, they've been around for like a long time. And so my Chekhov's influencer is basically that her like recording everything, and one, it's kind of the like the pretty girl that you dismiss actually ends up being incredibly smart and like savvy, and she will bring down Lex Luthor, because he basically pisses her off. Like he just sort of like does that thing, like does something, in a relationship because he has a relationship with her that is like demeaning or like not demeaning, but just like kind of insulting, really, and just
Hmm.
like ignoring her. And it'll essentially be those pictures will be his downfall, or his posts will be his
Yes.
downfall, or some like post or picture.
Very good guess. I love it. And you know what? This was one of my Chekhov's guns as well.
She's so conspicuous. Like,
So conspicuous. Yes, I called it Chekhov's ditzy girlfriend.
oh,
My guess for how the girlfriend will pay off later, I think that she will turn out to be yet another superhero. Already, we've been introduced to many metahumans, and we get introduced to even more as the movie goes on. So I thought she's going to be another metahuman. She is in disguise, and she is trying to take out Lex Luthor from the inside. That was my guess for Chekhov's ditzy girlfriend.
ooh, I like it. I mean, frankly, anyone who could walk in heels that high to me is a superhero, and I am like comfort you all the way.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, while Superman is fighting off Ultraman, a metahuman known as the Engineer, as played by Maria Gabriela de Faria, has located the secret location of the Fortress of Solitude per Lex Luthor's instructions.
I had another Chekhov's gun. We sort of see like a collection of like people on TV, like praising Spider-Man.
Superman.
Jesus, what is wrong with us today? There's a scene where there's a falafel guy. So I call it Chekhov's falafel guy. And it's this guy Malik, and he's like, I know Superman. I gave him a falafel once. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay. Like he's got a name that's got to be important. And my theory is that either I had two scenarios. One is that like basically he's used as bait to like lure Superman to Lex Luthor's lair because like he knows him, and the guy he gave him a falafel, like Superman owes him. I also really love falafel. Like truly, it's like
Falafel's
it's
great.
amazing food. So maybe that was also it, or the falafel, like the actual like falafel, is used as a weapon to bring down not Lex Luthor but the Engineer. So those are my two.
She just can't resist the falafel.
She can't resist the falafel. It's really good.
I love it. I'm writing it down. In our next scene, Clark Kent shows up for work at the Daily Planet, where we meet Jimmy Olsen, played by Skylar Gazondo, and Lois Lane, as played by Rachel Brosnahan. Lois busts Clark's balls. She's not impressed by his front page story, but they both agree that the Hammer of Boravia seems to be a setup of some kind. So yeah, here's where we meet Lois. Any first impressions?
So I really like Rachel Brosnahan as an actress. It's funny, actually my husband was watching this with me and he was like, oh cool, it's gonna be like the 40s. And I'm like, where did you get this? I don't know. Like, where did you get this
Clearly
idea?
he missed Chekhov's influencer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I mean, before he went to watch it, like, before we sat down, he's like, oh, maybe because it's like
Yes.
cast her, they're like, we're gonna do. But anyway, I think that they tried to do that, like in her clothes. She did a lot of like kind of Katharine Hepburn front page, sort of, wide like trouser sort of situation. Cardigans tucked in. Like they really, I think, but it's sort of like obviously wasn't that. I think they tried to get their dialogue to be super snappy, but it didn't quite land as well. But I just really like her, so I like really enjoyed it, and I like the newsroom stuff. Though I have so many comments about the whole like all of the newsroom stuff. Like I'm sorry, journalistic ethics, like seriously.
What journalistic ethics?
I know. And they talk about it, but like not nearly enough, like at all.
They just throw around phrases like on the record and off the record, and they think that that is enough journalism speak to make it sound authentic.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, there's just not a lot of fact checking, but that'll come up later.
James Gunn does seem to be a longtime fan of Superman. And as you're talking about Lois's styling, and also if we want to talk a little bit about Superman's styling or his
Hmm.
costume design, they really made sure to have that iconic hair curl, you know? And I think also in a similar way, they really made Lois look very Lois-y in a kind of vintage way. And also sticking pretty closely to her original depictions in the comics with the dark brunette hair and the blue eyes. I guess I would say I liked that because it did evoke for me the 1940s cartoons, which I
Hmm.
was a big
Yeah.
fan of. I haven't actually seen The Marvelous Miss Maisel, so I don't have any sort of. I don't really have an opinion of Rachel Brosnahan
Hmm.
previous to this because I haven't seen her in anything else. I feel like she's believable as Lois, but immediately I was a little bit irked because I see this a lot in Marvel movies. It's a big complaint of mine with Marvel movies is that the women often are the straight man. They're super smart and they're super capable, and there's just nothing like funny or like warm about them at all. And my first impression of her was that she was acting quite shrewish in a way, and
Hmm.
I feel like too often that happens with female leads in superhero movies. So my very first impression was like, I'm a little on the fence, but you know, I will wait until my final judgments of Lois until I see the rest of the movie.
Oh, that's interesting because yeah, she got. I actually see what you mean. That and makes sense. Like it feels a little like her job is just to sort of go in and drive the plot rather than like introduce a full character.
It's like the guys get to be like goofy, like Jimmy's being goofy, Clark
Hmm.
Kent's being a little bit goofy, and she's like, I'm the serious girl boss and I'm the
Hmm.
smart, capable one. And, you know, I'm not complaining in general about smart, capable female characters, but again, it's just sort of within the context of a superhero movie. That's kind of what they get relegated to almost all the
Yeah.
time.
And also she has to kind of introduce like the whole Clark Kent thing. And that doesn't feel like a fun enough of a job for probably would like could be a whole interesting movie, all to itself. Also, interestingly enough, like we are talking about the costumes, like he is wearing like a full suit, which I understand what they're, I mean, obviously, like as you said, that's like the reference, but like nobody else is. And it's
Right.
not his first day, like
No,
like
no.
suits are expensive and uncomfortable. And like, yeah, anyway.
You were mentioning that the Daily Planet newsroom rings false. I agree. But one thing that I did like about the Daily Planet and the Lois character is that she is really excited about the news.
Hmm.
So I am glad that they made that part of her character front and center. Like, she's a reporter, she's there to get the scoop. Because that's always so integral to the Lois Lane character, right? Like, the story above all else.
Yeah, exactly. Like she is single-minded and
Yes.
will stop at literally nothing and and sort of ignore her like
Her own safety.
her own
Yeah.
safety, her yeah, everything.
Superman's always saving her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And which I did really like.
In the next scene, Lex Luthor pitches his superpowered Planet Watch team to the Pentagon. Planet Watch is made up of Ultraman and the Engineer, who can control nanites. Lex Luthor proposes that Planet Watch take down Superman, saying that Supes has escalated tensions between Baravia and Jarhanpur, but the Defense Department accuses Luthor of war profiteering and turn him down. I have another Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's locked suitcase. There was one gentleman in the Defense Department who is carrying this locked suitcase with him all the time. There's a close up shot of him closing and locking said briefcase. That to me signals a Chekhov's gun. I'm like, why are we paying so much attention to this suitcase? My guess is that this locked suitcase will turn out to be some sort of MacGuffin. I don't know, maybe a nuclear football type situation. Maybe it contains kryptonite. There's something that is of great importance that is being hidden in this suitcase.
It's really interesting. I just assumed it was the like nuclear code thing, like someone carries
Yes.
around these and it's sort of a confused way of saying, well, this person is really, really important because they're like the other person that is supposed to the nuclear codes.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's important. He's got a briefcase.
Because like also it is 2025. Like most
Yes. Who has a
important
suitcase?
people do not like have a briefcase that they lock
Yes.
and unlock. Like maybe they have a leather vest. Like maybe
Right. I realize now that I've probably said suitcase multiple times when I meant briefcase. Yeah, listener, sorry
I knew
about that.
exactly what you meant. At first I was like, wait. And then I'm like, oh, no, I know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah.
So, as it turns out, Lois and Clark have been dating for months now, and Lois knows that he is Superman. To which I say, thank God.
Oh, God.
Much in the same, I know, much in the same way that I was really glad we weren't subjected to yet another origin story. I really hate this thing of the superhero's girlfriend can't know his secret identity. He has to lie to her to quote unquote keep her safe. It never sits right with me that we're supposed to buy into a relationship where both parties aren't being entirely truthful and trusting of each other. So I have to say big kudos to the movie for that. Thank God Lois and Clark are in a relationship and on the same page.
Okay, I too, because I was very anxious about this when you showed. I was
Yes.
like, is this going to take up half the movie? Also, like, in this one, they've been dating for a short period of time, but like, I'm used to like the where it was much longer. It's like they were together for a long time, and that also is galling because like this is an investigative journalist. I just want to say, like, these are the most cynical people on the planet. Like and not cynical, I shouldn't say cynical, but like there's a reason they're doing what they're doing because their brain is constantly going like, are they lying to me? What am I not hearing? Like that is their job. You gotta turn that off when you go home.
And it really would call into question Lois's abilities as a reporter if she were unable to suss out that her boyfriend were Superman.
Yeah. And yeah, not like, oh, he has a side hustle I don't know about. He's fucking Superman.
I will say that the movie does also hang a lantern on this a bit. Obviously, it's very well trodden ground to make fun of the fact that no one can tell that Clark Kent is Superman when he puts on glasses. Haha, how stupid is everyone? They do mention in this movie that he has hypno glasses, I believe
Yeah.
they called them, which does actually make him appear different to people who see him when he's wearing these
Yes.
glasses. So the movie does hang a lantern on it. It's a very quick aside, a very quick way of explaining it, which also I appreciate. I'm like, we don't need to belabor the point here. The joke's been made 1,000
Yeah, it
times.
relaxes the brain. It's like you put on a hat. It's like as if your friend, like you haven't seen me with glasses on probably, and now because it's been a couple years, I do wear glasses, and you knew who I was immediately. Like, you were like, wow.
I'm like, who is that? I cut my hair. You're like, who is she?
Who is she?
So back with Lois and Clark, Clark agrees to an interview with Lois as Superman, and she certainly doesn't pull any punches. She grills him about why he decided to stop Baravia from invading Jarhanpur, a country supposedly in need of liberation from a tyrannical regime, at least according to Baravia. Things get heated, there's a lot of yelling, and Superman insists that he stepped in only to save people from dying. This to me was shades of Russia, Ukraine. Baravia is the Russia and Jarhanpur is the Ukraine. Am I reading too much into this?
I didn't get that. I kind of got. I feel like it is such an amalgam that you could almost take any. Like they had to work so hard to make it not quite tie to anything. And actually I was trying to figure it out. I was like, oh my God, they must have worked so hard to sort of denature the conflict and yet still make it like real somehow.
I just feel like they wouldn't have like one-to-one parallels with real countries
Yeah.
because then why would they go to the trouble of making up fictional countries? Obviously, they don't want to step on any toes, but I do also think on the other
So
hand,
they can
this
put it
movie-
out in Russia and like no one gets mad, right?
Totally. I guess I was just feeling stronger Russia vibes because the head of state of Moravia seems kind of Putin-esque, and also
Yeah.
I would say that the Lex Luthor character is a sort of amalgam of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So if I'm buying into Luthor being a stand-in for Trump, then therefore it also makes sense for me for this other character to be a surrogate Putin. Anyway, that was my interpretation.
Okay, this scene I have so many comments about. So number one, again, with a fucking journalistic ethics. So she can also not interview him. Like that is not
Yes.
actually at all acceptable. And the questions she's asking him, the fact that he is in fact a journalist and does not understand how on the record works or doesn't
Yes.
work is shocking. Like, I don't know, but like, I don't believe I can understand why someone maybe says something and then goes, "Oh shit, like I shouldn't have said that on the record." But the
Yes.
fact that he's arguing with her and being like, "Oh, but that's now off the record," like should not be is kind of is unacceptable on so many different levels. I won't even get into the fact that he's interviewing himself,
Yes.
which she mentions, but like if she's somebody who really cares about this, so like the fact that she just thinks it's ludicrous rather than like actually offensive to like the practice of their profession, which is really really important in a like a large, they're sort of presented as like a large sort of mainstream news organization with like, with a code of ethics. Like she would be fired, not only fired but like discredited. That's my one thing that really bothers me.
Yes, the journalistic ethics in here are clearly not
It's not what they should
not
be.
exhaustively researched. I hear what you're saying, and I understand that everyone's threshold for suspension of disbelief is different. The only pushback that I would give is that I don't think this scene is meant to be taken so seriously.
I'll let it go. I'm gonna let it go.
I'll say what my complaint was with
Okay.
this scene is that I'm not buying the chemistry between the characters. I was at first when they have
Mm-hmm.
a nice little scene in the kitchen and there's a little bit of kissy smoochy going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yes, here are two attractive people. Their faces fit together nicely. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the argument, or just even in the rest of the scene, even when they're not actively arguing, there's just a lot of yelling going on. Both of them just default to high volume and yelling. And this really kills any sort of emotional depth of the scene for me.
I actually agree. I feel like the thing with this kind of quote unquote argument in like a couple that has a lot of chemistry is generally you tend to like move in and out of argument because it's obvious this is like kind of the same kind of argument they have over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of making fun of each other, but like there's no like inside jokes or like, yeah, I can see that one, but like there's no, I really agree because there's no interplay really. Like they
Mm-hmm.
don't, and that could be just like, again, this is like suspension of disbelief. It's the writing. This is still the beginning. There's a lot they have to introduce. But yeah, no, I think that you're right. Like there is certain, and that may have been some of my disappointment too in this movie. Like I don't know if I buy it. And also like you know that they've been dating for 3 months. And that's kind of it. Like what does it look like? Is it like epic
Yeah.
love? Have they been dragging it out and they finally admit it to each other? Like, is it like we just can't? We like tried to be professional, but we're just so besotted. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really get, I just kind of got that, like, let's give it a shot, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, their conversation pivots from the war to Krypton, and Superman reiterates that he was sent to Earth by his parents to make the world a better place. They argue some more, and Clark leaves on a sour note.
Yeah, she kind of calls him like basically you've complicated like Lewis at some point says like, hey, I don't think that LaGravia is like a good actor,
Mm-hmm.
state actor, I don't mean. And she's like, yeah, I think so, but we don't have any proof, right? Like we have, that's for the opinion page. But we don't have anything to kind of hang our hat on. And so to like help people and actually kill other people. I mean, that's the other strange thing. He's like, well, I want to save
Mm-hmm.
these people, but not these people. And she does point it out. And then he just kind of gets sort of frustrated and mad. And
Mm-hmm.
also is like she kind of brings up like how he's perceived in the world and like he's sort of like bugged by it, and it becomes kind of a joke. But then at some point he's like, okay, I'm gonna go, which he starts really acting like a petulant child.
Yes.
And who like basically because she doesn't agree with him, which I mean, he's met her. Like her thing is challenging people and questioning people. It's literally how she functions and like how she makes her living and is her passion, right? So of course she was going to do that. Like why did she expect otherwise?
Hmm.
But then she instantly goes, "Oh, I knew this wouldn't work. I'm not good at
Hmm.
relationships." I cannot tell you how angry this made me because I was like, he is being a petulant child. Like, if you were being like a child's back, if you were being childish back, that would be fine. Like, I would get that. Like, if she was just like, well, fine, if you can't handle like being criticized, even though, like, also literally would be criticized at work, and the same questions would come, like, he should be used to this. And instantly they write this like she's not good at relationships. She's too independent. When like he's being a petulant child, and instead of being
Hmm.
like, you know what, you're right. Like maybe, we should like stop talking about this and go back to and like actually just like engage in something else or be like interested in engaging on this level because they're two intelligent people who are like living in this world that they care about, um, she has to instantly be like, I'm independent, therefore I'm not good at relationships. Like, Jesus H. Christ, like really?
So if we were on your retired podcast, Happily Ever Aftermath, this would not be where you would say the characters fell in love.
It would not be where the characters fell in love. I wouldn't now. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't give them much. I wouldn't give
Yeah.
them very long, to be honest. Like, they had their fun. Why not like have sex with Superman? I mean, seems a good deal to me.
To your point of Superman acting like a petulant child,
Hmm.
this is not the only scene in which he gets this sort of like grumpy, childlike resistance. We
Hmm.
see this a lot when he's at the Daily Planet as well. My husband didn't watch this movie with me, but he did poke his head in at a couple of points. And one point was when Lois was kind of needling him here and said, "Oh, on social media they're calling you super shit." And he's like, "Oh, I hate that."
Hmm.
And my husband asked, he's like, "Is this an SNL skit?" And I said, "No, it's the new Superman movie." And he said, "You mean to tell me this isn't a parody?" And I'm like, "No, but I do think that really speaks a lot to some of the portrayals in this movie. They don't ring true as
Yeah.
real adult people in an adult relationship."
Yeah. And like there's it's almost like he has not grown up with social like, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
So he's an alien, right, from another planet, but he really doesn't have the fish out of water excuse,
no,
considering the
he
fact that
literally
he
grew up here.
grew up on planet Earth since he was a baby.
Hmm. And also, I do think they probably would have come up with something more interesting than super shit. Like,
Oh, totally. This is a pet peeve of mine. Hollywood is very bad at making up fake memes. They just never ring true, ever.
the worst. And that's actually why I thought they influenced it because I was like, oh, they're going to do something with her because it's unexpected, but like it's exactly expected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that thing of like when they make movies about like a rock star or, a singer, and it's really hard to nail the music. Like that is so difficult. But like you would think that like we consume so many memes on a regular
Yes.
basis that you would think that like in 2025 you would be able to do it, but it always feels creaky like your grandpa was like put in that somebody's like aged aunt who like hates social media is now forced to like make a meme,
Yes.
and like it's so bad.
It is. Well, that's the thing. Memes are created by a community, right?
Yeah,
So when you have a writer's room, that is a community, but it's a very small community. And it's kind of impossible to make a meme in a vacuum, I suppose.
I guess you're right.
Meanwhile, Lex Luthor and Planet Watch infiltrate the Fortress of Solitude in search of some dirt on Superman that will convince the Pentagon to take him down. The engineer manages to recover the lost portion of the message from Superman's parents. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor unleashes a distraction upon Metropolis, a monster that I can only describe as a huge fire breathing mutant axolotl. The so called Justice Gang shows up to help Superman fight off the monster and to provide comic relief. The Justice Gang is made up of Guy Gardner, one of the Green Lanterns, as played by Nathan Fillion, Hawkgirl, as played by Isabella Merced, and Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie Gathegi. Superman wants to subdue the creature, but the Justice Gang ends up killing it, much to his disappointment.
I mean, I think I think we were talking about sort of the comic relief aspect of it, and I found it kind of tedious. Like I just couldn't get into it, but I wasn't sure if I was like, this is like where the whole like lore aspect of it becomes like sort of, is it lore? Is it just not compelling? Like would I find it more interesting if I had like a backstory? Like I know who Green Lantern is, obviously, but like, like if there was more of it, then maybe I would have found it more interesting, but I found it sort of tedious. And like I think sometimes that humor of like, hey, they're superheroes, but they also have workplace conflict and they're trying
Yeah.
to name themselves and nobody likes it. Like it's not unfunny, it's just not actually funny.
Yes. Speaking of the Justice Gang and is it lore, is it just comic relief, et cetera, et cetera, I do feel like this movie suffered from introducing too many characters all at once. One of the reasons that people praised the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the beginning when Iron Man came out, and that's all there was in the cinematic universe, it was very simple. You had one superhero, you had one villain, and then as they progressed the MCU, it was like, here's Captain America's movie, here is Thor's movie. And then when the Avengers movie finally came out, it was a big point of contention of, are they going to be able to shuffle all these characters together successfully? And they were, but I would say because they did have that basis of those previous 4 or 5 or however many movies it was. Whereas in this movie, in Superman, it's like, here's a superhero, here's a superhero, here's a superhero. Like Justice Gang, there's 3 right there. There's the Planet Watch, 2 more additional people. There's Superman, obviously. There's Crypto, who's a superhero in his own right. And then we get Metamorpho and a bunch of other people, and it was just too much all at once. Even as a person who's generally versed in comic books but less versed in DC, it felt like a real hindrance to me. It felt like a pretty big barrier to entry.
Yeah. I think you have a really big point because I think like say, I haven't seen all those movies, but like I really liked Iron Man. I enjoyed Iron Man because
Yes.
like there's actual character development that
Mm-hmm.
happens, and that's actually like that tends to be what I'm into. Like I do tend to like boring talky movies. Like that is kind of my jam. Which is why it was probably good that I had a podcast of movies I liked when I was younger. I'm like, let's watch this ponderous film again, and talk about it. So I think that like what could have actually like there could have been kind of an interesting geopolitical story, instead of like good and bad, but then you had these like characters that I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel. Like, are
Mm-hmm.
they serious? Are they helpful? Like,
Yes. Even when the Justice Gang first came on the scene, it
mhm.
wasn't immediately apparent to me whether they were there to help Superman or to fight him.
Yeah.
It took a couple minutes to even establish what they were in relation to Superman and the rest of the world.
Hmm.
So yeah, they could have been a little bit better in their introduction even of the characters.
And if they are, they're like very powerful. They don't have like you don't really understand like how are we like in regards to Superman, how are we supposed to how is like public like supposed to feel about them?
Yeah, and like how do they stack up power wise? How do they work
Yeah,
together, et cetera, et
Jay would
cetera.
in theory also be kind of worried about them.
Yes.
Like, oh, well, now we have these people we kind of have like we have these powers we kind of have to contain in some way. Or we have to sort of enter into like some sort of negotiation with. And it's like they were not taken very seriously, but I guess because they're paid. I also didn't understand that. Like, I mean, I get like, they're like, oh, well, we're sponsored. And I'm like, what does that mean in this world,
I
really?
do think that the idea is interesting, having a superhero like Superman who does it for the good of mankind. That's his entire motivation versus these characters who are mercenaries, essentially. Like you
Mhm.
said, though, what does that mean exactly that they're sponsored? They really could have made that quite funny, actually. Like maybe they
Yeah.
have a Gatorade patch on their uniforms, you know?
Or they're kind of coming out and doing little like, stopping and having to like do some product placement.
Oh, like pose and do some
Yeah.
social media content and some TikToks and things like that.
Hmm.
I could see this being extrapolated into its own movie. That's actually kind of a fun premise that I think with more breathing room and room to really explore that could have been interesting. But in a movie where there's already so much spaghetti being thrown at the wall, it gets a little bit lost. Celebration about the monster's defeat across Metropolis is interrupted by breaking news. Lex Luthor says that the recovered message reveals Superman to be an enemy of the people, sent by Krypton to rule over Earth with an iron fist and to spread his Kryptonian genes far and wide with a so-called secret harem question mark. The public instantly turns on Superman. In this breaking news segment, we are introduced to a character named Clevis Thornweight, as played by Michael Ian Black, a blatant stand-in for Tucker Carlson. I mean, if it weren't obvious on its face, also according to Michael Ian Black and James Gunn himself. So we have this Tucker Carlson surrogate, and in this reveal by Lex Luthor and all this scaremongering about secret harems and that the Kryptonians are going to replace the human population, this is very obviously, I would say, shades of the Great Replacement theory. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, yes, yes. Unfortunately.
So I was wondering, did
Hmm.
you hear critique of this movie about it being quote unquote too woke?
Oh God, no, I did no, I did not, because I actually purposefully did not. Again, not really a big like super movie fan, so it wasn't like, oh, am I going to see this movie? Am I not? So I didn't, but I would love to hear more.
So I just heard vague rumblings that certain people, I would say more conservative leaning, were criticizing the movie as too woke, whereas people more liberal leaning were saying things like, oh, so doing good and being kind is woke now? You know, that was the rebuttal. So
Hmm.
I was curious just to know what everyone was talking about.
Hmm.
And it does seem like part of the criticism and the so called claims of wokeness is that the people in this movie who are espousing an equivalency of the Great Replacement theory, they
Hmm.
are made out, I would say rightfully so, to be buffoons and
Yes.
villains, you know, the type of people who deserve to be dunked on. So so if the criticism is actually, hey, this movie makes fun of the Great Replacement theory, then to that I say, great.
I, it's that is so interesting because I'm kind of with you. Like, odd to, it feels odd that you would align yourself with these people. 'Cause not only are they
Yes.
both, so they're either buffoons, but or also incredibly cynical and manipulative
Yes.
of the public. Not really for like ideological gain, but actually financial gain and power.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I agree with you. Like, obviously, I am pretty appalled about the whole idea of the Great Replacement theory. Um, I don't get that, but it
It's a
feels
bit of a head
very,
scratcher.
yeah, it feels like it's that kind of weird logic that I'm always like, I wish I could sit down and have a beer with someone for like 2 hours, because that is what it would take for me to understand. Like, I need
Hmm.
you to explain this to me as a 5-year-old. So like, I have a lot of questions. I mean, the whole thing with the one review I read about Superman is that he is like, it's got that like inspiring sort of like thing about like just kind of getting back to the simple idea that just like the world, like we make the world too complicated. It really is
Mm.
like about taking care, like living your life to like you exist to serve people,
Hmm.
and that's like very meaningful.
Yeah. In our next scene, the president of Baravia speaks out against Superman and meets secretly with Lex Luthor, confirming for the audience that they have been working together all along. Luther has made a deal to get half of Jarhanpur after Baravia takes them over. Superman rushes back to the Fortress of Solitude to find his automatons dead and Crypto missing. Superman goes to Lois. She says she never doubted him for a moment, and they kind of patch things up, but not entirely. Superman then decides to turn himself into the DOJ and Planet Watch. After all, they might take him to wherever Crypto is being held.
And I mean, the dog, like Crypto, this, I don't think we touched on that, but their whole relationship of him with the dog is really sweet, but also doesn't really, it doesn't, and I guess it's not really his dog as we find out, but like it's a being that both helps him and, you know, protects him, and like he's not a very well-behaved dog.
Right.
But like it's sort of like the love, there's sort of the joke that the love feels like a little grudging, but of course it's a dog. How do you not love a dog? But I feel like, yeah, that like, you know, you wouldn't have a grudging love, but maybe it's like, maybe I'm fantasizing about dog ownership. I don't have a dog. I'm never really, I've loved all the dogs in my life. I've loved absolutely, and not grudgingly at all.
Well, speaking of Crypto, Superman does decide to turn himself in the hopes of being led to where Crypto is being held. Planet Watch takes Superman to Lex Luthor, and Luthor uses his dimensional portals to transport Superman to a pocket universe and trap him there. He is able to trap Superman with the help of Rex, aka Element Man, aka Metamorpho, who can convert parts of his body into elements such as kryptonite. Also, Rex's son is being held hostage by Luthor. Superman is thrown into Pocket Dimension Prison, along with Crypto, political agitators from around the world, and Lex's ex-girlfriends. James Gunn likes prisons for some reason. His characters are always getting thrown into prisons, constantly. It's a recurring theme.
It just seemed to be. And I feel like another thing, everyone's at this point very, very casual about the pocket universe. Like because they are communicating with like the DOJ. Also, like this Tucker Carlson character doesn't really seem to ask about like this pocket, you know, like everyone seems to be aware that the pocket universe thing is happening, and the only people who like know it's dangerous are the, you know, the tech bros that are you know, like working there. Again, also that is very realistic. That was very realistic. There weren't a lot of women in that room, but there were women, just not like a sort of representative sample, which feels very old school. Maybe they were influenced by Zuckerberg.
Yeah, but also kind of accurate to Silicon Valley still, depending on where you are.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I get to work with like a lot of a really diverse cast of characters, so that's nice. But
yeah,
wasn't always the case. So yeah, I guess that rings true.
True. With Superman out of the picture, Baravia resumes its invasion of Jarhanpur. Lois starts to put the pieces together, speaking of women getting the job done.
Mm-hmm.
She figures out that Lex Luthor is working with Baravia, and Jimmy Olsen taps a source of his who tells him that Superman is being held in a pocket dimension. It turns out Jimmy's source is Luthor's current girlfriend, Eve. See the pieces coming together.
You mean Chekhov's influencer?
Chekhov's influencer.
I should have said it, Chekhov's TikToker. That would have been so much better.
I like Chekhov's influencer. Lois goes to the Justice Gang for help, and Mr. Terrific tracks Superman's last known whereabouts to a military camp and goes there with Lois to investigate. Mr. Terrific then fights off the Planet Watch goons, and he and Lois enter the Pocket Universe. Again, I do want to give some praise to this movie. This is probably my favorite fight scene, and I do think this movie pulls off action scenes quite well. It's a very energetic movie. The camera always seems to be in motion. I think that helps to underscore the excitement of some of the fight scenes. I do feel that I almost called him Tim Gunn. It's Project Runway. That's a big difference.
What would he have done with this material? That's what I want to know.
He would have designed better
Oh my
costumes.
God.
Not that I have a complaint about the costumes, but I'm sure Tim Gunn would create amazing costumes. Anyway, where was I? James Gunn. I had to look up whether this movie was PG-13 or R. I honestly couldn't remember because the fight scenes, did seem a bit violent to me, more violent than I felt was maybe appropriate for a PG-13 movie. Turns out it is PG-13. It's not rated R. It is pretty bloodless now that I think back about it. But that being said, I liked the action scenes, even if they did tip a little too visceral and not cartoony enough for me sometimes.
This is when the movie kind of picked up, like right before this is when the movie, I actually wasn't like, oh, I guess I have to watch this movie. Like I was like, oh, I'm in. I'm kind of in. And I started like getting excited. I liked so my like old lady, like, get off my lawn thing with a lot of fight scenes in action movies is like there isn't really time to enjoy them. It's so like the cuts, like the close-ups, it's too much
Like the
close-up.
quick cuts.
Yeah, and it's too much close-up, so you don't, whereas say like, more like kind of classic Hong Kong movie, like you really get to enjoy the choreography. I will say, like,
Yes.
I wasn't like thrilled. I mean, I am not an expert, so I feel like I'm really talking my ass here, but like choreography was like fairly basic. But this is one of these fight scenes were those moments where I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I could like be transported into a theater just to watch this because
Yes.
they were interesting enough, and like because they were kind of wider cuts, not wider cuts, wider, like the lens was, or the placement of everyone was, the framing was much wider.
Yes.
You really got to kind of like see it. And I think that may be also why it felt more bloody, because I feel like it was less like, or maybe not bloody, but like felt more violent because you really were like seeing destruction.
Yes.
And you're seeing that like reaction more than I think a lot of other movies. You're really seeing like this person who isn't used to feeling pain genuinely suffer.
That was an interesting part of this particular fight scene with Mr. Terrific fighting off the bad guys, is that much of the focus of the scene is on Lois's reaction to the fight. She's afraid. She obviously knows that there's monsters and superheroes in this world. It's not like it's the first time she's ever seen such action, but she's scared, as she rightfully should be, and also impressed and also amazed by what Mr. Terrific is doing. So that did bring a new perspective to a superhero fight scene, I thought, which was one reason why I liked this particular fight scene.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In the pocket dimension, Luther interrogates Superman, threatening that poor falafel guy at gunpoint. And then he shoots him when Superman doesn't cooperate, sadly.
Okay, so one, I was obviously wrong. So I'm, a little bitter about that. But I mean, he did, like, I would say, technically he is using him as some sort of bait, but it's not bait to lure him. Like he's already there. The fact that he like got rid of him so quickly, that was the only surprising scene of the movie. You know what I mean? Like I sort of expect, like you got to give, like he wasn't like not responding. Like you gotta give the guy like 2 or 3 tries. I mean, I'm no expert in like this kind of negotiation, but
You're not?
yeah, weirdly enough, the pocket dimension. Yeah, I unfortunately just skipped out on that school, but like, yeah, I just really feel like that was just like too shocking that he just killed the falafel guy.
This is maybe another reason why I question the rating of the movie. I don't think a Marvel movie would have some poor innocent street cart vendor get shot in the freaking head. That's a little too bleak.
It was rough. Like that was for a movie, like you're expecting it in fight scenes. You're just not expecting to be like brutally, murdered.
Especially when it's an innocent. Like plenty of faceless monsters and spacemen and whatever get killed in
But
superhero movies.
that.
Yes. Or robots, but it's actually very seldom that an innocent bystander gets
And you see
whacked.
people sort of like maybe fall into something, but they're
Yes.
not real. They've no development. But here's somebody like just like their head is just fell to the floor.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, me either.
Also, falafel. I mean, my God, it's the world's greatest food.
Is this the shawarma of the DCU? Element Man also did not like this. He has had enough and he decides to help Superman. He disappears the kryptonite and creates a small yellow sun to help heal Superman. And speaking of suns, this time with an O, Superman breaks free and rescues Rex's baby, his little boy. He also rescues Krypto from imprisonment, and they all escape just in time through the crumbling dimensional portal that Mr. Terrific and Lois had entered through and were helping to keep open. This was another long fight scene. There were several little standoffs with Mr. Terrific and his little drones, Superman fighting off Planet Watch guys that are kind of in these mech suits.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty fun scene. Was this one of the scenes where you liked the choreography, or does that come later?
I think probably liked it more just because it was more people involved and it was kind of interesting. And then you had the whole like Superman has to take care of the baby.
Yes.
Like basically because like Element Man can't carry the baby when he's like working, he's transforming or something. And so like Element Man is very casual about like here's
Here, have
like,
my
I was
infant
trying
child.
to kill, but like, please take my infant child, you and your insane dog. But like, obviously had no choice, like what was he gonna do? But like, there's this whole like thing with this crazy baby, which I kind of loved. Like the baby was so interesting and strange looking and reminded me of like vaguely, and I didn't realize this until like I woke up in the middle of the night last night.
You were plagued by Superman in the
I
middle
was
of
like,
the night.
oh my God, this reminds me of this of like, it reminded me of a character, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, of like a children's character from my youth, but like an amalgam of them, but then also twisted, but also Garbage Patch Kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so there was just a lot there that I was like, oh, I kind of want to like study it a little bit. And I just didn't have time today. Like that was my goal today, was like, oh, I want to like look up who does this actually remind me of? But this whole idea of like this baby with a giant head, like while like all of this ridiculous action is happening and is like just kind of being held in one arm by Superman while all this stuff happens. And it's just like, it was very touching for me. Like just this, like that actually to me, it was like, that is that promise of Superman, that feeling of like goodness.
Yeah.
Sort of a childlike purity, like a purity of what is good and bad. And it's like, okay, well, we got to keep the baby alive. And like, we also got to like kill all these people. Like, we'll just do it. And just like the kind of tenderness, the physical tenderness. And that made the fight scene interesting and sort of touching rather than, when sometimes you have this in like other movies. Why am I spacing on the movie? I think it's like one of the Fast and Furious, which I like don't love as movies. I just really love car chases. But I think this was in a Fast and Furious movie where like, someone had this like baby carrier and they're trying to like do all this fight scenes, but it's supposed to be kind of ludicrous. And I couldn't tell if they wanted it to be ludicrous, but it ended up being really quite moving for me in the middle of this fight scene instead of being like, okay, well, now they have to fight with a baby.
I thought it was a fun twist. There is always that complication with Superman of not having him be too overpowered because depending on your definition or your incarnation of Superman, he's invincible, right? So how do you have stakes? How do you make a fight interesting when your hero is literally invincible? So in this scene, he's still weakened by the kryptonite, his exposure to the kryptonite. And on top of that, he has this miniature temporary MacGuffin, the baby. Can't let it touch the floor. The floor is lava. So we have these extra elements of weakening Superman, which then in turn raise the stakes
Right.
of the fight scene. I thought that was well orchestrated.
Yeah.
And I also liked this scene because I'm sorry, I can't help but compare all superhero movies to all other superhero movies. One complaint that I and many people have of the MCU often is that the graphics can tend to be rushed and muddy looking and just very gray and muted and drab. Something I really appreciate about James Gunn's superhero movies is that they're very colorful, they're very vibrant. And this scene especially, there's this weird, I think it was called like a proton river or something. I can't remember. Anyway, it's this very colorful, rainbow colored river that Superman is getting sucked into, that he has to hold the baby above, and he's getting pulled into a black hole that's like swirling everything around it. So very visually interesting, fun, animated fight scene, in my opinion. Luthor has a meltdown when he finds out Superman has escaped, and he takes it out on Eve, his girlfriend. Jilted, she sends Jimmy info on Luthor that should take him down for good. What appears to just be sexy selfies at first actually reveal maps of Luthor's plans to divvy up Jarhanpur after Barevia conquers it. Spot on, Polina.
Yes, 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 yes. I got it. I got one.
Bravo.
I thank you. It was not subtle, to be fair. But I did, it's like, it's one of these things where you're like, oh, okay, she's like the annoying, clingy one. But I did like that she, did this really kind of slick thing of basically making sure that every time she took a selfie, because she knows she's invisible, like she knows the place that she is at, like she understands her position in this universe, and she's frustrated by it because she's like, I don't want to just be like a source for Jimmy, right? And this whole idea of like, oh, she basically always takes a shot to make sure she has something incriminating in the background, because she knows that like Lex would never wouldn't even conceive of her being a problem, or that she even knows what she's looking at, but she does.
Yeah. I ultimately feel rather bad for this character for a lot of reasons, but also because it's pretty inscrutable to me why Jimmy is so disgusted by her. Like
at one point, Lois is like instantly clocks it. Like she's like, oh, these are all these hot, like just pictures of her being generically hot. But then she sees it really quickly. But at some point she's like, your hot girlfriend is a genius. And he's like, hot? I'm like, no, but literally she is made up and create, it's not like, she's not like, oh, she lets down her hair, she's hot. It's like, it's actually that she is hot and is made that way. And he didn't spend that much. It's unclear how many dates they had. It's also unclear that she's really all that awful. Like she's very aware that she's like, I have to stay here because otherwise I end up like that other chick in the pink dress. Like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be in the pocket universe prison.
Totally. Well, that's what most bothered me about the movie's treatment of this character, is that by all accounts, she's obviously a conventionally attractive person, symmetrical features, skinny, blonde, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. She's wearing makeup. She's got her hair done.
They make a joke about her toes being ugly. And of course, I'm not saying that Jimmy should obviously care for her because she's attractive. That would be a very shallow take to say. But it's unclear why she is so repulsive in any other way. It's like, sure, she is portrayed as a bit clingy, a bit desperate, but not so much so. She's like, oh, Jimmy, can't we spend the weekend together? That to me seems like a pretty reasonable request to make of someone you're dating. And he's like, oh, no. He's like so turned off by it. And I'm like,
not the whole weekend.
I'm like, what is
48 hours? You're going to watch
on?
A bunch of movies and get it on? Like, what? You're going to order food? Like, what are you doing? Like, right. And the toe thing was so weird.
And I think handled differently, it could have made a joke of Jimmy, because Jimmy in this whole movie is portrayed as for some reason, a ladies' man. Literally, he's walking down the street and women are cooing after him, like, "Oh, look at that guy." There's literally a scene of this. So he, instead of being the dorky Jimmy Olsen, he's like, I guess, the desirable Jimmy Olsen. But then he seems so like turned off by all of them. And it's like, okay, this could be a joke at Jimmy's expense. But instead, the way that it's executed, it's definitely a joke on Eve's expense, which I think is kind of gross.
Yeah, that I think what you're saying is like the joke would have been that he's so fixated on this one weird, like one aspect of her, which has nothing to do with her personality. And
it also could just be funny to be like, why are all these gorgeous women attracted to this kind of average guy? I mean, I think he's cute, and I don't think that's...
I mean, he's cute, but he's really boring. Like, I guess, like, that's the other thing.
And
like,
it could have been played up to be, like, really funny, like, look at all these tens, and they're so in love with this dorky newspaper guy, but it just didn't... Right. The execution didn't work for me.
Yeah. I almost forgot about it until you mentioned it. But yeah, I didn't love that part either.
No.
And also, she's clearly has been through a trauma. And he's just like, oh, I have to spend the weekend with you. And I'm like, well, I mean, just out of like a human thing, like, hey, you know what? And also, she was like, she saved the world. Like,
yeah.
she helped save the world. And like, you can't like spend the weekend ordering Grubhub with her, like, and like binging Downton Abbey. Like, I don't know what is so awful.
Totally. Luthor is so enraged that Superman has escaped that he triggers a dimensional rift in space-time near Metropolis in hopes of luring Superman back there to stop it. Meanwhile, Baravia goes all out on its assault of Jarhanpur, and its people call out to Superman for help. But Superman can't be both places at once, so what is he to do? Oh no. If only everyone in the world were good, then maybe he wouldn't have to be everywhere at once. Also, meanwhile, Lois and Jimmy reveal all the dirt they dug up on Lex Luthor and his plot to get Superman out of the picture in order to conquer Jarhanpur. The chief of the Daily Planet tells them to publish their scoop, and the Daily Planet crew does exactly that.
Okay. Can I just bring up the journalism situation? Okay, number one, it is 2025. Like, we have the technology to like create a pocket universe, but like Lois is having someone else dictate. Like, I use like voice to text all the time at work, like all the time. It's not revolutionary. It's in your friggin' phone. And also, again, with the friggin' fact checkers, like, there are no fact checkers at the Daily Planet. Like, I understand breaking news happens, but like, you have a team of people who are trying to like handle it. And again, I know it is not real. Like, it's not real, but like, I don't know. It's just that I think I'm too close to the problem right now. Like, it's too, I'm too enmeshed.
I don't think they even reached out to Lex Luthor for a quote.
Oh my God, none of them. Yeah, there's like a lot of people. Like, also, Chekhov's influencer also didn't reach out for a quote. Like,
yeah, no quote from her. Well, maybe they didn't want to reveal their source.
Maybe true.
The dimensional rift is handily destroying Metropolis, but Superman is there to help. He has a showdown against the Engineer and Ultraman, but he does ultimately overpower them. Again, another fight scene. I thought this one was about on par with the other ones. It was sort of a 2-on-1 fight, a little bit more closer choreography of the fight than the bigger fights. I thought it was all right.
The whole like fighting in space while you're flying, I don't know. It's not like I watch these movies a lot, but and I don't, and I still see that all the time. It's always like this also was one I kind of wish I'd seen in a theater because I really wanted to see. He had this. He basically is being like covered in and essentially devoured by these tiny metal
nanites is what they called them.
Yeah, they're called nanites, but like they're almost like metal, like large metal filings, and it's like kind of horrific because like if you ever done things with metal, you get metal filings in your mouth. It's awful. But
Have you
like,
gotten metal filings in your
I
mouth?
have gotten metal filings. I'm very clumsy. And I don't take proper safety precautions, but it's been a long time.
Where is your protective gear?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
The 90s. There was a protective, yeah,
The
safety
90s
first
are
wasn't
just metal filings in the air.
metal filings in the air in people's bodies. We're like safety first. What? I also worked in like off-Broadway theater as a theater tech, and so that there's a lot of safety violations, and that unfortunately I my luck wasn't great. But that's fine. That it made me stronger, I guess. But and that was kind of cool, like kind of horrific,
Yes.
and which made it really powerful. Like one thing about this thing is you're saying that like the whole thing about Superman's invincible. So it is maybe why you and I aren't really drawn to it, because it's like they have to do a lot of gingerbread to like make the stakes high, and it feels a little forced. But when you said that, I was like, oh, that may be why it's not as interesting. But this movie, like he has been vinced, like and like you start out the movie seeing him like just on his ass. Well, he's on his stomach, but like he's just like out. And like there's so many moments where someone else has to rescue him. So I knew he was going to get out of this one, but I was like, okay. But actually, I really liked that engineer character. I thought it was so interesting. Like I wanted more of
She
her.
had a really interesting character design. Her powers were interesting. The graphics themselves of the nanites were quite visually interesting. I did like her
Yeah.
too. I would not have minded seeing more of her, certainly.
Yeah. And this whole thing where at one point she literally says, like, I have given up my humanity for essentially like progress.
Yeah.
Like it was a little weird because I'm like, you gave up your humanity for this?
She seemed to be a conspiracy theorist of the Superman Great Replacement theory. She thought that Superman was a threat to everyone else.
That's it. Yeah. And so, and it's kind of interesting because she's turning herself, of course, into like she gave up her humanity to that. It doesn't, I don't know. Yeah. There's something there or there's nothing there. And I can't figure out which one.
I mean, I would say nothing, but what you were saying about how this fight you felt was effective because you were worried for Superman and you did feel like, oh, how's he going to get out of this one? How's he going to get out of this scrape? The movie does really shine when he is less superpowered and more human. And in fact, that is kind of the button on the movie, is that he's human and that's his greatest strength. So anytime the movie underscores that, I feel was a success.
Yeah. There's this moment in this where basically he like someone's about to be crushed by a building and he sort of saves one person, but I'm like, but there's other people in the building. Like I just like this is my sort of thing is like he's very much like I will save one person, but like all these other people who because I see them with my eyes, but anybody else is kind of like.
In fact, I think it was a dog that he saved. And also in the previous fight with the axolotl monster, he goes out of his way to save a squirrel. So I don't know, maybe as an alien creature, he sees all species as equal. But yeah, maybe prioritize the people in the building over the dog. Yeah. I hate to say it, but
multiple people. Like you're kind of in that, like, and realize it's like a philosophy thing. And
the trolley problem.
The trolley problem.
There's a dog on one track and there's 5 people.
And there's like
on
500 people. I don't
know. During this scene where Superman is fighting the engineer and Ultraman is revealed to be a clone of Superman. So unnecessary. Why is this even in the movie? Who cares?
Was that all of? Okay. Thank you. Because I was like, is this part of lore that I'm supposed? Because I'm just like, why?
I mean, I have to say, surely it must be a callback to some existing comic book, because Superman's been around long enough that of course he must have had a clone at some point. But it's
Yeah.
also like, I guess this is just an Easter egg for the fanboys in the audience to be like, hey, I get that reference and pat themselves on the back. But as your more casual viewer, I'm like, there is already so much going on in this movie and we're almost at the finish line and it's way too late to be introducing new things like this. I don't know. It was very bizarre to me and I sort of erased it from my mind because it was weird.
I had to rewatch it because I was like, they don't look.
They don't. When he was first unmasked, I was like, who is that? Like, honestly, that was my first reaction. I'm like, am I supposed to know who this is? And then they're like, it's him. I'm like, oh.
I actually rewatched it and I'm like, okay, I'm not, I mean, sure, like you told me it was. And like, I don't want to argue. I don't care enough.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I think this is a perfect example of like, just like jam packing everything into it. It's like that scene would have been fascinating no matter what. And I guess you did have to explain how Lex Luthor got into the lair because like
it was DNA coded.
It was DNA coded. But I feel like you could have done that like without having to clone another human.
Or also, you didn't need that element at all. The Fortress of Solitude is already secret, so you know, there's already the matter of having to find the fortress. So who cares if it's DNA secured or not? Like, they didn't need that even at all in the plot, in my opinion.
Also, another thing, like the Fortress of Solitude has been penetrated by like several people. And it's like, oh, I guess we'll clean up. And
not very solitary.
like instead of like, I think we need a postmortem and we really need to review our security procedures and like, we're going to need to do some serious work. Everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I guess it got breached. That's fine.
More training for the automatons. The fight in Metropolis is intercut with scenes of things going to shit in Jaharnpur. Fortunately, the Justice Gang and Element Man are there to save the day, and they take out the leader of Baravia. Yay.
Okay, this is so obvious, and I feel like a little childish for loving it, but there's that scene where basically like the president of Baravia is being held by Hot Girl. Okay, I can't accept that. I'm sorry. That's why I can't. Like, I was like, it can't be Hot Girl. Like, that can't actually be your name. But whatever it is, that's fine. But like, you know, and she's flying, and you know, he's like, oh, you can't kill me because you're weak, like Superman. And like, she goes, she's just like, oh no, I'm nothing like Superman, and like drops him, and you see him getting closer to like the flat roof of a building. And then the next scene is like an Alka-Seltzer or something fizzy being dropped into a thing of water, which I'm like, again, what is the age of the people like making this movie? Like, are we just like, I'm sorry, like, are we dropping? Like, is that what we do?
We're having the so-called good guys mercilessly drop the bad guys to their death atop a rooftop. Yeah, it seems a little.
And then how we like sort of
make a joke of it
is like the Alka-Seltzer is, maybe it's not Alka-Seltzer, and I'm revealing my age because I remember watching those commercials when I was a kid, but like, you know, a tablet dissolving into water.
It's a clever juxtaposition and a clever way to cut away from the violence, but the violence is still very heavily implied. So
also, we have to watch Malik get like we have to watch Malik get shot in the head and his brain splattered, and yet we can't. And like, I love Malik, but yet I can't watch the like spattering of this like just repugnant narcissist like who is wreaking havoc on the world. Like, I would have enjoyed that a lot more than watching Malik's brains get splattered.
Something that's very common in a superhero movie is pretty simplistic moralizing usually, and the bad guys get their comeuppance.
Yeah, that's your payoff, right? You want to see this very powerful person, you know, get splattered on a roof.
Well, I don't know if I need the graphics, but I get the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Superman clone seems to be getting the upper hand, but Crypto saves the day by taking out Luthor's monitoring drones, which were helping the clone to fight Superman. and Superman is able to chuck the clone into the rift and defeat him. Yay. Superman then confronts Lex Luthor in his command center. He says he's not an alien, he's human, and that's his greatest strength. Luthor gets his standard evil villain defeated moment where he reveals that his goal was never to win the war, but to take out Superman. Yeah, no shit. He confesses that he was fueled by envy and his own call to save humanity. I like what Nicholas Hoult did with the material. You love to hate him. There's not a lot of dimension to this character, but I think that's okay. It is a comic book movie at the end of the day. You need a villain to be the foil to the hero. That's the role Lex Luthor needs to play. I think that Nicholas Hoult does a good job of embodying that. If he had any hair, I would say that he was very mustache twisty. But I guess you just have to imagine the proverbial mustache that he is twisting. He seemed to have fun with this role in this performance. He embraced being the nasty, larger-than-life villain. It was a good performance for me.
I agree, because like there were the moments that were satisfying, that they were genuinely satisfying. Like there was a moment where they're in this, the headquarters, and this command center is basically this building, which is like two towers and then a bridge. And then at some point when he's like, I don't care about the rift, which is like literally splitting the city.
Right.
He's like, I just care about parts of the city I like. And it was just so well put. It was just so like quick, but like really impactful. But there's that moment where he's like, everyone's like, but it's going to affect this, like the towers, like this building. And he's like, I got it. And like just it fly like the
Yes.
tower where the command center just kind of flies off neatly, and just like the look on his face where he's like, yeah, that's right. I created that. Yeah. Proud of it. Like I'm pretty proud of that. And like there were these little like smirky moments. Also, I think every villain has to have that thing of like they're incredibly magnetic. Like you have to understand why somebody like the engineer would buy into this, right?
Totally.
And you even see it, like there is like he has more of a relationship and an intimacy that he like really leans into with the engineer in these tiny moments. Like, he knows this is how you motivate her. And so he's like, I'm gonna turn my eyes, and you're the only, you're the most valuable thing in this room. And I think that, I think Nicholas Hoult obviously has this effect. He's incredibly handsome,
Yeah,
and incredibly magnetic, and he's got these blue eyes. But you're like, I get it. Like I'm like, you understand, which makes it so much more interesting.
And if we take the character's motivations at face value, in his mind, he looks at Superman and he wishes he were Superman. He's like, I also want to do something for humanity, but this guy has all the powers to do it, whereas I don't. I don't know if he's entirely authentic in that belief, but
yeah,
if the people in universe believe him, you can see why they might believe that he does actually believe that.
Yeah. And he pulls off that speech of like, hey, my envy, like you didn't do anything. You just have gifts.
Yes.
And that makes you have inhuman gifts, and that makes you inhuman. And like it doesn't make a lot of sense, because there's like he doesn't seem to have this reaction to
the other metahumans, yeah.
But like actually it's such a cheesy speech, and he kind of pulls it off. But you also are like, oh, he doesn't quite believe it, because he's a sociopath. And so like I find him a much more compelling Lex Luthor than I find like David Cornsweet Superman.
I would agree with that. I read a review in Vulture by Alison Monroe, and she said of Luthor, quote, "The character turns his own envy and resentment into a presumed public good, as though the world would, of course, benefit from the relentless pursuit of his interests. Luther believes he's the most important person in the world with the freedom to do whatever he wants, end quote. I thought that kind of perfectly encapsulated the character here and why this version of Lex Luthor did seem to work so well.
Yeah, because I feel like, especially, I think these days, I think we're really seeing a lot of like pretty extreme speech.
Yes.
And sort of a vision of a technological future that I think has always been there, but it just seems like it's not hidden anymore. Like that basically this vision of the future, which is like we know better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't see this, then you're not as intelligent as we are. You're not as technologically advanced. You can't like this is like very much in just normal sort of parlance, like even outside of Silicon Valley, which is why I was like kind of going for a Peter Thiel thing, because like obviously.
And I would say the Elon Musk parallel still holds true as well. This
Oh yeah.
Luther is definitely a product of the times, which is why it resonates pretty effectively.
Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful quote.
So Crypto takes out Luther mid bloviating, and Mr. Terrific closes the rift. Luther's defeat is underscored by breaking news. After hearing the Daily Planet scoop, the world agrees that Luther was the bad guy all along and Superman is the hero. Yay.
Yay.
We then get to the denouement. The pocket dimension prisoners are released. Luther is sent to prison, and Superman and Lois reconcile. They kiss and kinda confess their love midair. Because, of course, you have to have a midair kiss in a Superman movie. It's a requirement. Sometime in the near future, back at the Fortress of Solitude, Supergirl, Superman's cousin and Crypto's owner, appears. She collects Crypto and then she pieces out. This seems to me a very blatant sequel setup. James Gunn definitely wants to keep himself in DCU's pocket for as long as possible, so might as well put the breadcrumbs for as many sequels as you can, I suppose. This time, while Superman is being patched up, he's consoled not by the message from his Kryptonian parents, but by old home videos of himself with Ma and Pa Kent. The end.
The human parents.
The human parents. His greatest strength, his humanity.
Just in case you didn't get it when he literally said his greatest strength is his humanity.
Yes.
I just want to say, like, this universe is like much less polarized than ours. It was like, oh, Superman, we saw a video, very bad. Like very quickly. Like no one's like, wait, we were taught the up like wait, this doesn't quite make sense. And then instantly it's like, oh, he's good. There's no, so
he probably still has his detractors.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some people call him super shit.
So that's our movie. Polina, what are your final thoughts? Did you think it was super shit, dare I say?
This is the one thing I learned about doing a podcast before is that like it is in a weird way much more fun to watch a movie you didn't like and then talk about it than watch an amazing movie that then afterwards you just are like, well, that was really good.
True.
And so I have to say, like, talking about this with you was super fun. And so it made a movie that I like. I did not love I kind of was dragging myself through a bit, especially the first half. And, I don't want to be that girl, but like, I don't know, the depiction of women in this movie, even Lois, who like, again, like I still don't believe Lois and Superman as a couple. Like they have a kiss and that's cool, but like on our podcast, we used to always talk about like, oh, what happens to these people like after? And I have to say, I'm like, I can't help but think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I give them like another 3 months.
Yeah, totally.
Like Lois just deserves a lot more than to have to be the like, the kind of cleanup person for this like, a sort of righteous man baby a bit. And I think that she takes her career a lot more seriously. And I just feel like at every turn, I mean, with the exception of the engineer, which I mean, I'm sure if I rewatched it, I could also be irritated by something there. Like it wasn't ever awful, like where I'm like, oh, I just cannot, I can't watch this. It was more like, do you have to do every kind of sad trope? Like
Yeah,
everyone, like, oh, she's hot. Oh my God, she's actually smart.
right,
Or, oh, she's hot, but like the price you pay is that she's clingy.
right.
And then like, I think what you said about Lois, like that she has to be, she's kind of the killjoy role is also another kind of, sort of annoying, boring thing that
She's the
she
sitcom
doesn't get
wife.
to have fun. She's the sitcom wife. She can't be fun and do things like I would love it just like it would be really fun to watch just a Lois Lane movie where she doesn't have to do this. And the fact that she has to turn on herself, like, I'm sorry, that actually still really bothers me. I'm like, it still irritates me that she like blames herself, like that like her thing is that she's bad at relationships. And I'm like, no, like, this is a stupid argument. You're having a stupid argument and he's being a baby and then he can't handle it and he wants to leave and it's you? Like, no.
When I heard rumblings about this movie being too woke before I watched it, to me, this set off an alarm bell that maybe that meant that there were actually good female characters, because a lot of times you will get disgruntled
Right.
fanboys online who will label a movie critically as quote unquote woke because they're not happy, let's face it, that a woman is taking front and center in their superhero movie. How dare? So I was expecting coming into this movie to have quite good female representation. And I'm sorry to harp on this, but, as
Yeah.
a woman, it is a bit of
I mean, we are two women, like
yeah.
we're
And, when it comes to my pop culture criticism, it is a bit of a hobby horse of mine because I do feel like it's something I can speak to. So
Mhm.
to underscore everything we already said about Lois, she is kind of in that shrew role. She doesn't get to have a lot of fun. Again, the Eve character, she is the butt of the joke, and she's either a bimbo or the crazy ex-girlfriend, and don't stick your dick in crazy. Also,
Mhm.
there's a character that I never mentioned previously in this episode because she did absolutely nothing. This is Kat Grant. She is a member of the Daily Planet. She is the bleach blonde with the cat eye glasses and the boobs. That's how you will recognize her, because she is just strutting around the office, showing off her cleavage, super short skirt. Again, this is one of those things where you asked, is this lore? I'm sure that she is somehow an important character in the comic books. I am not seeing what her role is in this movie beyond being eye candy. Hot girl, she's just kind of there. She gets a few little sassy lines. And this isn't her fault or necessarily the movie's fault, but most of the online chatter that I saw about her was just lusting after her. Honestly, that's all I saw was all these men being like, she's so hot. I would do anything for her. Let's see more hot girl. So, yeah, of all the characters, of all the female characters, it's like, yeah, the engineer had something interesting going on there. But what are her motivations? Why was she wooed by Luther's world vision? We don't really get a lot from her when she was maybe the one with the most potential.
Yeah. And like again, I think it's lore, so I don't want to like totally trash this, but it's hard for me to be like, oh, here is a character that's literally a lethal being with some like really interesting powers and like obviously like has a job and it's Hot Girl. Like that's her name. Like I just don't like I can't I'm not even like it's almost like
It's
so
the
ridiculous. I
superhero
can't
genre.
yeah, like I can't even really be offended, but I'm like, did you just like did you just have to go home? Did like the Wi-Fi go out? So like, I don't know, like did you have to were you getting evacuated? Like what happened that you were like, "Oh, I am not gonna come up with an actual like name for someone?" I don't understand. Like I can't accept it and I find it confusing. And like and the thing is I'm actually like I mean I want to have fun. I'm not like, oh, every woman in this movie has to be this like fully fleshed out character, because there's obviously like
Absolutely.
plenty of other men in that
Hmm.
movie that are like, like there's like a few tech pros. There's like the tech lead. There's the project manager, incident commander, or whatever. There's like people, but like I feel like they're not the butt of the joke. I mean, I guess at one point, like Mr. Interesting, incredible,
Terrific.
terrific. Okay, okay, I just want to say one thing of apology. I'm clearly not the person this movie was for, because I'm like, I don't even really want to bother learning these people's names. But like, there was that joke where Mr. Rivik is like, okay, I'm just gonna like, I don't need your help, like I don't need you to pair program with me right now. Like, I'm fine, when they're trying to close the portal. But like, I don't, but he's not the butt of the joke. And I feel like he's just a side character.
He's the one making the jokes. The women don't really make any jokes at all. I
Yeah.
guess Hawk Girl maybe gets a couple of
And
jokes,
Hot
but
Girl, but they're like the same jokes that the other people tell. They're not her own jokes.
yeah. And, like you were saying, it's not like every single woman has to be this like fully realized dimensional character. But I do think this particular criticism speaks to a wider failing of the movie, which is that there are just too many characters. They
Right.
very easily could have cut down the roster of this movie to spend more time with everyone, man, woman, crypto, anything, and
Falafel guy.
a falafel guy, if we had just trimmed the very, very long list of characters in this movie, I think it really would have benefited the movie as a whole.
You know what? You are so right. I didn't even think of that, but that is exactly it, that it starts to feel tedious.
Hmm.
You're like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's comic relief time. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, like I think you're right. Like at base, like this movie is not for me. It's fine. Like whatever, it's fine. Like there are people who love this and I don't want to shit on I don't want to like yuck their yum. Like that's great. There's no judgment. I'm just
Hmm.
not that person. It doesn't make me want to watch more Superman movies.
Mm.
I was quite bored by this movie, but and then annoyed by it at times. And I had moments of that like childlike, oh, something just pure and good is happening,
Hmm.
like this is great. And there was some fun fight scenes. But like ultimately, I'm actually think now I'm more interested. I'm not interested in seeing more Superman movies, but I am interested in finding out why people think this movie is woke. Like now, like that is the rabbit hole I will be going down. Other than like listening to every episode of this podcast, this is actually like an amazing idea.
Well, thank you. And to touch on what you were saying about how we often have more to say about a movie we didn't like than about a movie that we only have praise for, I definitely find that to be true. But in this case, I really thought we were going to have a good movie to talk about because it was so highly rated. It was very well received among normies and comic book fans alike. A lot of friends whose opinions I highly respect really enjoyed this movie. So I'm afraid for me, it was one of those instances where the bar was just too high for me going in. So I was really expecting to be wowed and swept off my feet. And I do feel like I've said a lot of criticism. So I do just want to briefly touch on a couple of things I feel were good about this movie. We talked about the ludicrous comic book nature of it and how sometimes for you it was very ineffective, like hot girl, really? Like that's the best we can do. But when I have the choice of either a very silly, gleeful, comic book rooted movie versus a grim, dark, everything is horrible, Dark Knight type of movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dark Knight is a way better movie than this. But between the two options of super dark and serious versus super colorful and frivolous and gleeful, I would pick the super colorful, frivolous, gleeful movie, which I feel like this movie falls under that category. Ultimately, it really bugs me when comic book movies are embarrassed to be comic book movies where they're just like, no, pay no attention to the source material. We are a serious movie. Take us seriously. And I'm not here for comic book movies that take themselves too seriously. This movie sort of almost crossed the line there with the geopolitical stuff. I'm like, no, just give me. Honestly, I just want the good guy superhero using his cool superpowers in cool fight scenes to fight off bad guys. At the end of the day, that's what I want from a comic book movie. And I think more than other certain comic book movies in the genre, this did embrace that essence of a comic book movie, so to speak.
It's also very, I feel like it's earnest.
Very earnest.
Like even in its depiction of like the political stuff. Because I feel like they walked toward it, but they didn't live in it.
Yes.
You know, it was like a plot device. And then you did get that like adorable kid moment where, I mean, I'm only human.
Yeah.
Like when the kid was like, Superman, I was like, yes, like I want this for this kid. I want this kid to feel like they will be saved. Like I want them to believe. And like that was really, it had those moments. And I do think if I saw this in a theater, I would have been much more charmed than seeing it on my like 42-inch TV.
I do like movies that have the message that there's inherent good in the world and in people, because that's something that I believe. So I appreciate when we have hopeful, optimistic movies. And I do appreciate what Superman represents. I do think it's worth telling the story of doing good deeds and why that's important. This movie doesn't reinvent the wheel. It doesn't reinvent Superman. And I think that's fine. I think that now, for a lot of reasons we mentioned, is a totally appropriate time to remind people to be good to each other. I liked David Corenswet as Superman. I don't know if he's my favorite Superman ever. You use the word earnest. I think that is a very apt term, especially when it comes to Corenswet's performance. You look at him and you're like, yeah, that's Superman.
Yeah. No, he looks like Superman.
He sold the role to me.
Smells like Superman.
Did you say he smells like Superman?
Yeah, like you're like, no, it's like there is a real bodily sort of thing, right? Where you're like, yeah, if I ran into him on the street, like I would be like, oh, that's what it's like being next to Superman.
Listeners, comment below and let me know what Superman smells like specifically. All right, that's going to do it for our discussion of Superman. Now it's time to play the game and find out who won. The first Chekhov's whatever was my guess, Chekhov's lost message. This did have a payoff and in the way that I had guessed. So I am rewarding myself full points for that. Go me.
Nice.
Next up was your guess, Chekhov's falafel guy. You were saying that you felt it didn't pay off exactly in the way that you predicted. I feel like you were so close. You were close enough that I would reward full points. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I felt like I overplayed I thought he was going to play a bigger role.
He did have a pretty big role, though, ultimately.
I mean, at the end, they did say that he was the hero,
It's
which
true.
I found, I mean, he's a martyr.
Yeah.
That's what happened, which is, sad. Probably made killer falafel, which we'll never be able to eat.
Or smell. Sorry, I'm still on that. Okay.
I like smell.
Next, we were on the same page. You guessed Chekhov's influencer girlfriend, and I guessed Chekhov's ditzy girlfriend. She certainly had a payoff. You were a little bit more on the money with that one, so I'm going to give you full points and myself partial points. And finally, Chekhov's locked briefcase, which turned out to be nothing. No payoff. So I am subtracting points for that. All right, if you'll give me just a moment to tally the points. Beep, boop, beep. All right, the scores have been calculated. I had a final score of 2 points, and Polina, you are our winner with a grand total of 4 points. Congratulations.
Oh my God. I am so happy.
You've won.
I've won. I am very excited. I am very excited because I have to say I was very anxious going in. But then I got really into it. I'm like, this is a brilliant, brilliant idea, and it's really fun to watch. It was fun to watch the movie looking for those things in the
Well,
beginning.
I'm glad you had fun, and I feel like I've won by having you on as my guest.
Oh,
Thank you so much for joining me, Polina, and I hope you'll join me again sometime.
I hope so. Please, please. I cannot wait to come back. I will watch, and I will watch anything.
Good to know.
And if I can talk about it with you after. But thank you. And I've emerged a winner, and I can add this to my my trophy shelf.
Excellent. And in the meantime, where can the listeners find you online?
So you can find me on Instagram where I never post. It's Antelope_94131. But if you need to attack my opinions on superhero movies, or maybe like school me a little bit, I am very happy to hear that. And other than that, if you're interested in Happily Ever Aftermath with Diana Rojek-Sconard, please look that up.
Yeah, and I will certainly leave a link in the show notes to Happily Ever Aftermath podcast. Listeners, thank you again for joining us. If you are enjoying the podcast, please do like and subscribe on YouTube. That'll really help me out. And if you're already watching this episode on YouTube, tell me in the comments, A, what Superman smells like, and B, what is your favorite interpretation of Superman? Thank you again for listening, and until next time, bye!
Bye!
Thanks for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. Go to chekhovswhatever.substack.com to follow along with the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a positive review. You can also find video clips and full audio episodes on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe at Chekhov's Whatever. And finally, you can send email to chekhovswhateverpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's end this show with a bang.